Thank you, Jody. Hello, everyone. Before we begin today, I would like to take the time to acknowledge that I'm speaking to you on the traditional, ancestral, unceded Tumulao of the Central Okanagan people who have called these lands home since time immemorial. As mentioned, my name is Loyal Wooldridge. I'm the chairperson of the Regional District Central Okanagan, and we lead the Regional Emergency Program. I want to acknowledge that I'm joined in the room today with Mayors Dias, Milsom, and Ireland, and Councillor Coble on behalf of Westbank First Nation. And I see Renee Merrifield, our MLA, is joining us in the gallery as well. And as mentioned previously, the mayors and leaders will be available for questions following the official remarks today. The challenges we're facing today include poor air quality due to wildfire smoke. We're asking people to take steps to protect your health and reduce your exposure to smoke. Interior Health has resources online for protecting yourself when there's wildfire smoke, especially for the most vulnerable. For the third consecutive day, I can say that we've made progress on the fires. The Emergency Operations Center issued no new evacuation orders and downgraded a number of evacuation orders to alerts. Our focus today remains getting you essential information about affected updates on emergency support service and the next steps moving forward. Fire chiefs presented preliminary figures yesterday on lost and damaged homes. As numbers are released over the coming days, we must remember that these are people's lives and communities that are going to be deeply hurting for quite some time. Today, local fire chiefs, BC Wildfire, and emergency support services will offer updates on assessments, structural loss, supports for evacuees, and notification procedures. Before I hand it over to our subject matter experts, I want to take a brief moment to comment on next steps. I know people are eager to get home to their own bed, and we are working to do that as soon as it is safe. As Chief Brolund said yesterday, there are hazards that need to be addressed before people can go home safely. Teams are working around the clock to get you home as quickly as possible. This is going to take time. Your safety is our top priority, and we need to get it right. When the Emergency Operations Center determines the areas are safe, evacuation orders will start to be downgraded to allow some members of the community to return home. This determination will be made based on wildfire information from BC Wildfire Service, direction from our local fire chiefs, and on the ground hazard assessments that are currently underway. We need everyone to continue to stay up to date on alerts and orders and stay out of evacuated areas unless advised otherwise online at cordemergency.ca. Some of you will be evacuated longer than others. I know this will be frustrating, but be assured that we're committed to consistent communication and unwavering support. Last night, I spent some time down at the ESS Reception Center in West Kelowna. I've seen firsthand how exhausted evacuees and volunteers are, and I urge patience with one another. We are working directly with the province to improve processes and increase resourcing to expedite supports to people. Unfortunately, the most challenging days are not behind us. In the coming days, some of you and your loved ones will receive heartbreaking news about your homes. This means work for communities is yet to come. What I know is our region's strength is unwavering, and we will be there for one another. And remember, united as a region, we will recover, rebuild, and restore. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Wooldridge. And Brad Lipke, if you could now step to the mic today. Brad's new with us today from BC Wildfire.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for having me. My name is Brad Lipke. I'm currently the incident commander of the Grouse Complex. The Grouse Complex, as I think everybody's familiar with, consists of the McDougall Creek wildfire, the Walroy Lake wildfire, and the Clark Creek wildfire. Our priorities continue to remain the same, which is responder safety, protection of private property and infrastructure, and continuous evaluation of the evacuation orders and alerts, working very closely with the fire chiefs of the respective areas. It's not lost on us how important it is, when safe to do so, is to get people back in their homes and businesses open again. From a weather perspective, we're expecting lighter winds today, but there is a threat of convective activity or thunderstorms. With thunderstorms comes wind, but there may come a small amount of rain associated with that, which would be helpful. Cooler temperatures today and higher relative humidities should provide for more stability and lower fire behavior observed today on the fire ground. Moving over to the McDougall Creek wildfire, currently we're estimating the size of 12,000 hectares. The fire continues to, we see growth in the west and the northwest corners of that fire perimeter. Visibility is challenging us. That's the smoke conditions is challenging us to get an accurate track. That's why that size is estimation. Once we have better flight conditions in relation to the smoke, we'll be able to get a more accurate size in the days to come. Resourcing wise, we have 15 helicopters assigned to the complex. On McDougall, we have 27 structural personnel, 22 firefighters, and alongside RCMP that we're working overnight. These fires are in 24-hour operations, as mentioned by Loyal, our previous speaker. And during the day, our day shift, we have 51 firefighters, 15 single resources, 172 structure personnel, BC Hydro and RCMP working throughout the day on McDougall Creek. Moving over to the Walroy Lake fire in the city of Kelowna. Current size, last tracked was 777 hectares. Resources today, as I mentioned earlier about the helicopters, that's assigned to the 3 fires within the complex. So on the ground today, we have 3 operational single resources, 61 firefighters working alongside the Kelowna Fire Department, and additional structural personnel in addition to Kelowna Fire Department is 69. Fire continues to display lower fire behavior, and there was a lot of really excellent progression made, locking down and anchoring some of our flanks, and we also saw some reductions in some evacuation order areas to the north. Moving over into Lake Country, Clark Creek wildfire, current size 358 hectares, very limited growth yesterday. Again, lower fire behavior and a lot of hard work by the responders on the fire ground. 3 operational field staff are currently there today, 61 firefighters and approximately 69 structural protection personnel from Lake Country Fire Department and surrounding communities. With that, I'm not sure this is my first conference here at the start of the incident, so I'm happy to take questions at a later time.
Questions at the end. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Brad Litke. Again, I'm Jody Foster. I'm with Public Information Officer from the Emergency Operations Center, and I'm going to just give you a quick update on the process for notification for people that may have lost properties. So as already noted today, obviously we're trying to get everybody home as safely as we can. We know that the people that are still on evacuation order are looking for information daily for their status of their properties. As we shared yesterday, Canada Force Task Force 1 was in the area. They've now completed their assessments for West Kelowna, Westbank First Nation, and the regional district lands in electoral area west. We will have some more updates today that will be able to provide specific numbers on the losses and significant impacts within those areas. And we'll be able to start systematically sharing those updates as early as later today. One other additional piece is that we've seen a number of people now going home into evacuation order areas, so from an order to an alert. There are really great resources on courtemergency.ca because there are some things that you should know about food safety, about making sure your area is safe, your homes are safe. So as you're thinking about going home, please keep safety in mind and go check those resources to make sure you've got that all in hand as you drive back into your driveways. So thank you very much for that. That's enough for me today, and now we'll pass it on to Jason Brolund, Fire Chief of West Kelowna.
Thanks, Jody. Good morning, everybody. I know we're all struggling with the smoke out there. We are as well. It's covered our city like a gray blanket. And I know it kind of represents the way that a lot of you are feeling, and it definitely represents the way that we're feeling too. I know lots of you are tired. You're tired of being out of your homes. You're tired of this situation that we're in, and so are we. But we're not stopping, and we're not giving up, and nor should you. The smoke is going to lift today. We're going to start flying planes again. We're going to see our friends from the Wildfire Service out there hard at work. But the mountains around our community are going to look different. We haven't seen them since the fire, and it might be pretty dramatic to start to see what we've lost out there, and that's kind of the theme for today. Our firefighters are in your neighborhoods. You know this because many of you have doorbell cams. Many of you have witnessed the hard work and heroics often of the firefighters, in some cases saving your homes with the garden hoses that you've left out for us. In some cases, you've seen them come and put sprinklers on your homes, move your patio furniture, fire smart, move your wood pile, take care of your propane tanks. It's been an interesting factor for us that often you've talked back to us through your doorbell cams and told us that we're doing a good job, and that's new for us, but we appreciate that. I have to say, I really am beginning to feel like we're turning the corner here on this fire. And a major measure of that was the rescinding of some evacuation orders that were rescinded to alerts yesterday. It was small, but it was a good small step. I feel like we might be turning the corner a bit on the weather as well. So we are meeting multiple times a day to talk about where and when and how we can rescind these evacuation orders. It's something that Brad and I is always on our mind, and we're talking about it constantly. I understand that many of you are waiting for emergency support services. I understand that those waits can be frustrating as well. I want to share with you that I understand that because we are all in this together. My family also continues to wait in the same line as you. We have a white card and will be seen in priority order. So we're there with you. I ask for your continued patience. ESS is a great program. It's delivered on the ground by volunteers, coordinated by the province. I understand the frustrations. We've been talking about it a lot. I've asked if there's solutions, and I know things have already been put in place in the last 24 hours to make it better. I want to highlight the hard work of the firefighters, as I always do. Last night, they characterized it as a calm but very busy night. They dealt with numerous flare-ups from far and near across the community. The firefighters fought 24 spot fires around the area over the course of the night. There was a very close call in one of the neighborhoods where a tree and wood pile ignited, and the home nearby was saved through the action of firefighters. We are working still incredibly hard to make sure that we don't lose any homes. Like I often do, I want to highlight the work of some of the other people involved, people that you might not think of, or people who don't get any credit for all of this. As you know, we have 41 fire apparatus from other communities, fire engines and tenders that are here protecting our community. We're firefighters, we like to break things, and this equipment needs to be maintained. Well, we have a team of mechanics from the city of West Kelowna who are working hard to maintain those trucks. Not only the ones from West Kelowna, but the ones who have come to us from across the province. And over the last few days, our mechanics have been hard at work doing that. They're actually taking parts off of City of West Kelowna fleet vehicles and putting them on fire trucks from other communities to get them repaired and keep them on the road. And they're doing it quietly in the background without the need for any credit. But today they're going to get that credit. They're keeping us on the road, and we are very appreciative of that. So there's been some earlier discussion about notifications, and I'm confident that the EOC is building a process that will help all of us notify you, balancing our need to want to do it compassionately with wanting to get that news out to you quickly about the loss of your home. I know that they've also talked about sharing exact numbers with you, and it's important that we get those exact numbers right. Obviously, in any situation, there's always the opportunity for a line to be in the wrong place or a number to be assigned in the wrong column, and we want to ensure that we're accurate because this is important work. But in the meantime, while that's coming from the EOC, which would be later today, I would anticipate, I will share just very briefly on behalf of the City of West Kelowna and WFN that I expect the number of partial and full losses to be less than 90. Less than 70 in the City of West Kelowna and less than 20 on WFN territory. I hope that provides the public with some of the scope and scale of what we're dealing with, and also creates the added time that we need from the EOC to refine these numbers and perfect them before we release the exact numbers to the media. What I don't want to lose in all of that is another number. And I know it's difficult if your name falls in the first column, but the number in the second column on my page here is the number that was saved. And that's over 3,000 that weren't affected in our area of operations. So Canada Task Force 1 has demobilized from West Kelowna with their objectives completed. I want to thank these men and women who came here on a moment's notice, who lived and operated under austere conditions. They were self-sufficient when they were here, and they've completed the work that I asked of them far quicker than I would have expected, in a very efficient and safe manner. I wish them safety as they move to their next deployment. I also want to share with the public that through cooperation between Canada Task Force 1 and the RCMP, numerous individuals have been working hard with the data that's been collected. They've pursued investigative techniques and done their best to identify potential sites that may need to be searched for people who didn't make it out of the fire. Canada Task Force 1, with that information in hand and target sites identified, used specialized dogs to deploy to those target sites and searched. I've worked closely with Superintendent Triance and her team as well, and to the best of our knowledge at this time, there has been no loss of life and there are no missing persons outstanding from the fire. However, if someone you know is missing, I encourage you to contact Superintendent Triance's team at the RCMP and report that. That's very encouraging news for all of us that are involved in this. I mentioned that I felt as though our evacuation was orderly, but that I desperately hoped that everyone made it out. And today, to the best of our knowledge, using the best techniques that we have at our disposal, I can share that news today. So what are we up to today? As has been mentioned, there are 41 structural firefighter apparatus out on the ground. It's 172 structural firefighters who are part of a much bigger team that are doing the things that I mentioned earlier, out in the neighborhoods, putting out fires, fire smarting, and maintaining the systems that are in place. But as many have discussed already, we're working on re-entry planning and notifications. I want to thank everyone. I've talked about being patient, about being calm and cooperative, and doing everything that you do safely. We're still doing that today, and I hope that you all are as well. We're making progress. Things are getting better. We're going to get this thing across the finish line. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Brolund. If we could have Travis writing for you from the Kelowna Fire Department.
Sorry, hi, good morning. Just to start, last night was a good night over here on this side of the lake, and through the night and into today, we've had crews still diligently working and trying to put a perimeter and a fence around this fire and stop any future growth from it, so we can start to see people get back into their homes. I did have a good chance to drive the perimeter this morning along with Mayor Dias and get eyes on the entire outside of this fire. Incredible to watch actually some of the work being done. Wildfire and structural crews up the hills like mountain goats, working in the dark in the dirty areas, trying to get this perimeter guard put around so we can get people back into their homes. And as Jason mentioned, it's a key priority. It's something that's heartfelt, that we want you back in your homes, back in your beds, and starting to get some semblance of normalcy as much as we can after an event like this. So top of mind, and stay tuned. We'll do as best we can to get people back as soon as it is safe, which is the key priority. And we did get a few in last night, and hopefully over the next couple of days we'll see that continue on. In relation to loss, just an update on that. Preliminary field assessments at this point indicate minimal damage to infrastructure. Crews did a great job dealing with critical infrastructure like water supply through the area. But field assessments still continue, and there's still some areas with the clearing of the smoke. We'll get a better aerial view and be able to get into a few of the other areas we haven't been in yet, and so we'll be able to finalize our assessments hopefully today or tomorrow and put a concrete number and status on potential loss. Early assessments, just to update from yesterday, indicate that it's actually 3 houses and 2 outbuildings on 4 properties that have been lost. The 3 houses were actually on 2 properties located on Glenmore Road, adjacent to the Glenmore landfill, north of the Shady Lane RV and Trailer Park, and south of the North Glenmore Dog Park. 3 of the 4 property owners have been notified, and evacuees are reminded to register with ESS at ess.gov.bc.ca, so officials have current contact information. We'd like to extend our heartfelt sympathy to those who have lost their homes. We understand this is an extremely stressful time, and we will work directly with you to ensure that you have the supports that you need. The recovery for all 5 impacted local governments is going to look different. The City of Kelowna has been able to assess the situation relatively quickly due to where the losses occurred, current fire activities, and hazards in the area. The assessment task for other local jurisdictions is much more complex and may take longer. Everyone's working hard to do accurate assessments and determine the best method to get the information to impacted property owners as soon as possible. We're asking for your patience as we work through this. We're all working together. We're all working jointly. It may look different from one part of a community to the other based on the situation that each of us are facing, but it is done jointly, and it is being done as quickly and effectively and efficiently as possible. And we appreciate the patience that we've seen so far, and the way that the community has and continues to work together to support each other through these difficult times. So we're hoping for good news over the next couple of days with this weather change and better clarity and better eyes from up top, and we'll continue to provide information through the EOC to make sure that you're all well informed. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Whiting. Darren Lee, Fire Chief from the District of Lake County, please.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for your time. I just wanted to start off by thanking the public again for their amazing support. That means a lot to our responders. It provides them just kind of natural energy. Like I said yesterday, they're very optimistic, hardworking folks, but the outpouring of support is really helping keep up our morale, and that kind of translates into helping keep energy up throughout the day. So they really appreciate folks reaching out with kind messages and stuff on social media. What I would like to do is, after the conference, is just provide some of the members of the press email address and physical address if folks want to send in cards and things like that. I know Mayor Ireland had mentioned this the other day, and Chief Brolund kind of touched on this. So the outpouring of support at the fire hall has been overwhelming, and now we have an overwhelming amount of perishable food in the fire hall. And I'd like people to, like, and all kidding aside, I'd really like to ask the public, if you feel like you want to support and it's going to make you feel good, consider making a donation for what you can to one of the charities that's going to support with recovery, because this will be a long process. So whether it's a food bank or the Red Cross or one of the other charities that could no doubt offer direct support to the people most impacted, I think that would mean a lot. We know it's coming from you, and I think that's the best place to direct it. I think that would be, the Central Okanagan, all of the communities, it's a very strong place, and there's a really strong tie to community service here. And I think that would just really help support folks through the process. And I just wanted to provide a little update on the fire. I'll start off, our senior staff has started to reach out to homeowners. So I can confirm that there's a total of 3 homes lost throughout the district, and it's not concentrated in one specific area. There's a number of outbuildings lost as well, and to the best of our knowledge, until we get to fly it and recon it in the day, that's where we're at so far. As Brad mentioned, we had a really stable night overnight, and crews were able to make good progress. Cold trailing around homes and things like that. As the days wear on, smoldering fires around trees and stuff become a real problem for us. So part of the threat to firefighters now is danger trees, and also that's a problem for the community. So I just wanted to touch on evac alerts and orders, but there is a plan in place working with Wildfire, with BC Hydro, and the EOC to do danger tree assessment and danger tree falling where we need to. So they don't go out, and they will go out and identify the trees that need to come down to make it safe for re-entry. Last night, with the help of the EOC, the RCMP, Wildfire were able to lift the evac order on a couple of small parcels. So one area up on the very far northeast corner of the incident, and one area in the very far southwest corner of the incident, which I believe is going to open up Glenmore Road, which helps folks in all of our communities, whether you're doing business or you live in Kelowna or live in Lake Country. It's going to help get life back to normal for those on the periphery. We're working on a couple more options here, but again, we want to make sure it's safe for folks to re-enter. And just one more thing for all the firefighters and police officers and first responders out there, our friends at Wildfire, just if you guys could please be safe, we'll get through this, stay strong. And I really do feel like with the hard work, mostly the hard work and the weather, we're starting to turn a corner on this. So I'm starting to get optimistic about our outlook here. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Chief Lee. And now we'll take a comment from Chief Ross Koczorowski from Northwest Side Fire Rescue. He's joining us online.
Thank you, Jody, and good morning, everyone. Aside from what's already been said by our Public Information Officer and the previous speakers, we really don't have a lot to add, which is really, really great news. In regards to numbers, as mentioned by Chief Brolund, we do have some preliminary information, but we really want to make sure that we get this right. It's very important that the accurate information goes out. One of the best pieces of news, though, that we have received so far is that we do not have any confirmed losses of life up in the north area. Very, very great news. Over the last 24 hours, there's been little fire activity, which has allowed crews to continue to harden homes in the unaffected areas up in the north and put out hot spots in the affected area. And this is keeping fire away from homes when we have flare-ups, and will keep us from losing or damaging any further structures. Carrying out these activities are the resources that I mentioned yesterday. We have tons of iron out here, BC Wildfire, sprinkler protection crews, lots of support up in the north. And these crews will continue these activities today and likely into the coming days. Thank you, that's all I have.
Thank you, Chief Koczorowski. And if we can have Jason Bedell, please, from Emergency Support Services.
Good morning, everyone. I just want to start off by saying I spent considerable time yesterday on the ground in our reception centre and at our group lodging location at Prospero Place. I spoke with many evacuees there, and I truly do feel for you all. The long wait times do weigh heavily on myself and the volunteers, but we are continuing to push forward and we are making progress. I'm relieved to say that yesterday we were able to get the province to remove some significant barriers that we had in getting people into accommodation. I'm extremely happy to say that we were able to get everyone who was in the group lodging yesterday into a hotel room last night. Service BC is working with us to phone all evacuees who have registered but not yet seen an ESS volunteer to assess their needs. We are continuing to prioritise getting people into accommodation, but provincial resources and ESS remote volunteers will be able to provide additional supports for food and clothing over the phone. We are asking that all evacuees download the BC Services Card app, which will enable evacuees to receive direct deposits or e-transfers over the phone if needed. The BC Services Card app is a digital ID on your mobile device. If you need support with that app, please phone 1-888 356 2741. Additional resources that we have been requesting are on their way from across the province. Further volunteers will be trained again today, and we are working with a volunteer manager who has come from the province to us to operationalise those volunteers. I just want to reassure the community that we are making significant headways with the backlogs, and we will get to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. That's the end of our speakers for today, so now we'll move into taking questions. We're going to do this in the same format that we did yesterday, which is each of our media outlets. You can have one question and one follow-up, please, and we'll get the speakers to attend to the mic as soon as we know who it's for. We'll start with at the podium.
Hi, Rob Gibson with Castanet. I guess this is for you, Jason. We're hearing stories of folks who show up, can't get registered in West Kelowna, and reports that in Penticton there isn't as much going on. So the question I have for you is, if people haven't registered yet, can they go to Penticton and register and get help there?
There is availability in Penticton and Vernon to do that, but I also would stress that you can phone, sorry, I'll get the phone number for you in a minute, the ESS provincial hotline to speak with remote workers who can do some of that work as well.
Thank you. Haley, I think we have somebody online. Thank you, Jody. Rob Monroe, you can unmute your microphone and ask your question.
Yes, this is Rob Monroe from infonews.ca. I talked to the head of the Task Force 1 yesterday. He said they were assessing about 500 buildings. Doesn't mean they were all destroyed, but are we looking in that kind of number outside of West Kelowna? We're talking about Traders Cove and other areas.
Sorry, Rob, could you please repeat the question? We're not quite sure we're clear on what you're asking.
When I talked to Task Force 1 yesterday, they said about 500 properties were being assessed. We heard there's less than 90 in West Kelowna, Westbank First Nations. That doesn't include places like Traders Cove that we know is really badly impacted. So do we have are we looking at the area of 500 at all?
I can maybe provide a little context around the work of Task Force 1, and Chief Kotrawski can maybe talk to specifically the regional district. I do understand that Task Force 1 performed detailed assessments on, I know it's well north of 500. It's probably 600 plus by the time they were done. So I know there's a lot of numbers flying around, and this is why we want to ensure that we're accurate. But there was over 3,000 homes in the area of operations, as we're calling it. Well over 500 were assessed by Task Force 1. And within the city of West Kelowna and Westbank First Nations jurisdiction, we expect that fewer than 90 of those are either partial or full loss. And I'll turn it over to Chief Kotrawski to talk about areas beyond the city of West Kelowna and WFN jurisdiction.
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, and we've reiterated several times, we don't want to get this wrong, but I can report that we don't have nearly 500, and I can report that we have roughly less than 100 at this time.
Was there a follow-up question, Rob Monroe?
Yes, I'm just wondering if you can be a little more specific about where the most affected areas were in both West Kelowna and on the regional districts part.
We're not prepared to do that in West Kelowna. Ross Kocharovsky, did you want to talk about specific neighborhoods within the regional district?
I'm unable to report specifics. This was just going from what I've seen when I drive up and down this road every day. Without reviewing the list and getting things wrong, as I mentioned, the areas that look to be the hardest hit are the Traders Cove community, as well as Lake Okanagan Resort.
Thank you, Chief. Is there anybody else in the gallery that would like to ask a question?
I'm not sure who this one's for, Rob Gibson, Castanet again. The Premier's making a tour. Can someone speak to what that means to you and what we could expect? I know there's a press conference later today, but is there a kind of an itinerary that you will kind of, or a messaging that you're trying to get out with this one? Maybe you
Thank you. I'll take this one as it's political in nature. The Premier, as well as Minister Bowen Ma, who is the Minister of Emergency Management and Climate Readiness, as well as Harjit Sajjan from the federal government, will be visiting today. And the intention of the visit is really to get a lay of the land, to understand what the need is in the region. And from what I understand, the Premier will be viewing the damage, and we know that it will be a continued partnership with both the federal and provincial government while we look to recovery, which will be the next, the big task ahead of us.
want to talk about money?
At this point, not. It's just assessing the damage. I think it would be premature to put any dollars to this right now.
Thank you. We have one more question
Oh.
from Kobo.
Oh, sorry. I see Mayor Milson just wanted to weigh in on that as well, from the West Kelowna perspective.
Thank you, Mayor Milson.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, appreciate the opportunity to meet with the Premier and ministers. Certainly, it's important for them to get a full understanding of what's occurred within the region, and certainly, my intent as well, to just share with them information, but to certainly let them know that we have sort of limited capacity within our municipality to deal with the recovery. So we'll be looking for some financial assistance for sure. And also, there's some other concerns, for example, potential drainage issues on the hillside, and we'll need some assistance there as well. So I just thought I'd provide those comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Wilson. At the podium, please, Lowell.
Yeah, Richard Zussman from Lowell. On the same vein, in terms of asks, I know it's too early for specifics, but there obviously is going to be a need here for infrastructure support, but also support for the tourism sector who's lost so much here. So, I know you'll be having conversations, but can you articulate a bit the need that is going to be needed in this region in the immediate, but also in the long term to support some of those sectors?
Mayor Milson?
Yeah, as far as, I guess, the need for support for improvements to infrastructure rebuilding, I think it's certainly too early for us to discuss that. We haven't had, the assessments done of where we need assistance, so it's premature. I think the intent is to give the Premier and the ministers just a heads up that we'll be requiring some assistance. And certainly we have to consider the impact on tourism as well. And but it's, again, we're just sort of taking in the information we received today, and we're so grateful that there was no loss of life. And I think our priority right now is working with the EOC and ensuring that our residents that have been impacted in loss of properties, that the information be provided to them in a good way and a compassionate way, and I know it will be, but that's where our focus is going to be in the short term. Okay, so thank you.